All right. So today I'm super excited to chat with Ange Gibbons and talk about some of the work that you've been doing. And we're going to share about an exciting upcoming course that you're going to do this August. But I'm just super excited that we carved out the time. I know it's hard to find time. We both have busy lives. And in the springtime, especially, I feel like, gosh, we just want to either be in the garden or in the forest doing our things. But Ange, I would love for you to share a little bit about your background and the work that you do in the world.
Yeah, thank you, April, for having me and chatting with me for a little bit in this sort of indoor technical space. I'm just so used to being in the forest. So I am the founder of EarthWalk, and a lot of people in the sort of Plainfield, Montpelier area know me as EarthWalk, and which is a long-term mentoring organization. And I ran a nonprofit and a community-based education program for 15 years in the Plainfield area. And I've been teaching for about almost 4 decades and all outdoors, all in the forest or on Lake Champlain or out in the meadows and streams of Vermont, much of it, and really, really excited. So I have a lot of love for children and the earth, and sort of putting those two together is really my life's work. And about a year ago, after Earthwalk folded actually in 2021, due to COVID and many other things, that was just lot going on, and I had stepped aside just before it dissolved, and I was kind of underemployed but still finding kids, and I ran a kinder forest program with little people at Twinfield School in the forest, and I do a homeschool program in Cabot, and just really trying to find my path again. And I bumped into Adam Kane, who is the executive director of Fairbanks Museum, yeah, about a little over a year ago. And he said, Ange, because his son had come to Earthwalk,
Okay.
I just was talking about you. We have 500 acres in Matzinger Forest in Danville that was just donated to the museum. And what about Earthwalk 2.0? We have the funding, and just sort of looked at me, and I, whew, couldn't say no. And sort of the rest is history, so to speak. I pursued it and was, hired to create a feasibility study of the Fairbanks, this nature preserve in Matzinger Forest, and oh my gosh, it's beautiful. It's 500 acres and mostly wild, mostly old growth,
Mm,
and really magical. And there's a public park and parking area and kind of a place to land. And
mm.
um, now that was accomplished kind of about a year ago. So I restarted Earthwalk, and I have an organization now called EarthWalk. It's an L3C, a little more simple than a nonprofit organization with full-time employees and a lot of fundraising and, registration. So it's been really pretty wonderful. We did 3 weeks of camps last year, and then sort of leading into your second question, we talk about April. I realize because I'm talking about this partnership, because this is pretty big in my life right now. But it's been an extraordinary sort of path. And I feel so blessed because Marshfield is where my husband and I live on a homestead with bees and chickens and gardens. And, I'm about equidistant to the Matzinger Forest in Danville and where I was for 15 years in Plainfield. So it's very auspicious, I think, and very timely for the world, I think, because I'm so passionate about this vision of Earthwalk, which is really learning to be nature connected, compassionate, resilient community members who care for one another and the earth and are here for one another for the long term. So
Mm.
I'm in this for life and happy to be kind of landed there and
Yeah,
meeting you, April, who, you know, you've done so much. So really honoring your background, your
sure.
time, your
Yeah.
experience.
Well, thank you.
So,
I think I remember during COVID getting the email that said EarthWalk was being disbanded, and I thought, wow, what a sad. And I know that there was a commitment to and a lot of effort to make it happen, but I think the last few years, the last 5 years have been really challenging for a lot of nonprofit organizations. And so
right.
we have to kind of be ready to shift and morph and change and figure out, the next path forward. So I think it's pretty wonderful that you did find this partnership with the Fairbanks Museum and that the Matzinger Forest, which it's actually open to the public. Like you can go to the Matzinger Forest and check
Right.
out the nature preserve there. um, but what's exciting is you were talking about the camps that you do with children, but this upcoming August, and kind of the reason why we hopped on to sort of record a short thing for to kind of for me to be able to share with people who follow me is you are doing a really unique course. I know in my work for 2025, I've really pulled back and I'm not able to teach as many college courses as I normally do. And so I I'm excited that this is one offering that's available. So the EarthWalk Forest Educators Course is a
Mhm.
course that you're teaching, and that location is what we've been describing, the Matzinger Forest. So it's an in-person course with you for a week in August. It's not residential, meaning you're not coming to camp and staying there, or you're not pitching a tent or something. But it's very immersive. So it's like 9 to 4 for a full week from August 4th to the 8th. And I think that what's exciting about this is people can take the course just as the experience, or they could take it for graduate credits as well. So for licensed teachers or anyone who is looking for CEUs, continuing education credits, they could take it for that. But what's unique is it is professional development. It will count for teacher license renewal, but it's also personal renewal and reconnecting. And I feel like, Ange, you really are like a wisdom keeper, your connection to the forest and to your how the decades that you have put into this work is very unique. So what a special offering. And I think if you could talk a little bit about um, you know what's the week look like, what if someone were to sign up for that that session. Obviously I mentioned it was in person, but what would the week, or what would a typical day of that look like?
Yeah. Well, thank you. Wisdom keeper. Wow.
Sorry, is that too heavy?
No, it's
Oh,
it's a beautiful thing. I mean, I really I'm practicing to be an elder someday, you know, and
well, we're
I'm
too young and youthful for that, but
of
yes,
course.
sometime,
Um,
yeah.
but I just really value elders and my ancestors and sort of all the shoulders that I'm standing on
Absolutely.
that bring me here. So I'm, you know, nature is the grand teacher. So
Yeah.
uh, you know, I feel like you know, a facilitator in so many ways, because nature is my source and, you know, the trees, the plants, the sky, and I just feel like, you know, that in essence is what this course is about. It's definitely, you know, things to pass along and you know, I'll read you the course goals to experience learning together in the forest with a small community of educators, deepening our personal connection and relationships with nature and one another. We will expand our knowledge, skills, and abilities so we may pass this care on for one another and the land on to future generations. So it's really
Mm.
about sort of embodying a forest educator, if you will. You know, and I think as human beings, so much of our lives sort of unfortunately are disconnected, and often, we're in four walls to
Mhm.
teach and to do our grocery shopping and to, sleep and eat and all the things we do. But this is really about bringing something so important to be in the forest, learning together with one another and the land. And again, nature as the primary teacher.
Mhm.
So the sort of four principles that I like to really think about EarthWalk is, again, nature as our primary teacher is the first.
Mhm.
Outdoor living skills to build our resilience, like fire making and shelter building and setting up a tarp in the rain, and just how we are comfortable and knowing the plants and the animals that are around us, what we can eat as food, medicine, and just that experience for resilience in our personhood as well as for the earth, of course.
Mhm.
The community building is number three. These aren't in order, they're all together. But
It's not
really
a
about
hierarchy, it's a
there's no
spiral.
heart. It's a circle. It's a
It's a
wonderful
circle, not a
circle.
hierarchy. Okay.
No, it's a
We
beautiful circle. And to tend relationships, to really be in relationship with the the living world and in full relationship with the living world. Not just nature walks, not just, taking your class outside for fresh air, but really um, living and embodying earth and education and building those relationships with the wild, and knowing those trees and knowing who they are, and knowing the plants and animals. And
Mhm.
then really this full circle is with stewardship as the fourth principle, as a living practice rather than an end result. And stewardship of the land,
Mhm.
stewardship of our communities, stewardship of each other, and stewardship of our own self, of how we are in the world. So that's sort of big picture, of course, about this sort of EarthWalk
Mhm.
Forest Educators Course.
Mhm.
And then the daily practice is, just to be living that and tuning into our senses with each day and practicing sensory awareness and really slowing down. I feel like a lot of people who've taken the course, I haven't offered it for a few years now, but I have offered this course in different sort of manifestations over the years. And it's very retreat like. It's really just kind of getting down to the earth level and on a daily practice. If it is raining, that we are under a shelter and making a
Mhm.
fire and, learning those practices of singing songs and sharing stories and crafting, making baskets, and learning about cordage and how do we sort of grow those relationships of crafting
Mhm.
with just the simplicity of forest, and how do we grow as a community, because teachers, we're pretty awesome bunch, and get us out in the forest learning together. We can each really share with one another.
Mhm.
It's I'm not the teacher really. Again, I really look at it sort of more of facilitation and a sharing, because I'm a lifelong learner, and that's what it's really about.
Mhm.
And again, this forest is magical. So it's really getting down to the rhythms of this old forest, the Matsinger forest, and being in community together and learning those skills to take care of the land. Um, and so to get 3 credits, which is really a beautiful thing for professional development and licensure, it is usually paid for in your school. And so the course essentially starts, let's see, it starts a week before August 4th. So it's technically July 28th to September 19th.
Mhm.
And it includes, so we'll have this week together, and then I can mentor and support a sort of a EarthWalk learning portfolio. And I've framed some questions, like 40 sort of invitations, if you will. Um, and I can read some of the, oh, here we are.
Yeah,
Look at
I
your
just pulled it
training.
up for us.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
That's
And
very helpful.
oh, absolutely. And if so to find this, and I'll put a link to this in the show notes, but it's fairbanksmuseum.org and it's /professional dash or hyphen development /. So you could find that, or you could just probably just Google EarthWalk Forest Educators Course. But in here, it tells you a little bit more, in which Ange has already described. But there is a link that you can click here and it will go to the full course description. So sometimes when people are, if they're using school funds, school professional development funds, oftentimes you have to submit that. And so what's really interesting and exciting is Vermont State University partners with nonprofit organizations to offer unique courses. And so Ange's course is all laid out in this description. And so you could find that right there on the Fairbanks Museum's website. And Ange also has her contact information. So if you have questions, you can click, you go to the website and click here to get Ange directly via email. But I think that it sounds so exciting. I think it's a really special offering, and how wonderful that you've been able to develop this partnership with the Fairbanks Museum. And we keep saying Matzinger Forest, so I looked that up too. And you can read more about the Matzinger Forest. The family that donated 515 acres to the museum. It kind of tells their story and just tells a little bit about the rules. And, you know, because you can also just visit the forest, even if you were not taking the course. But I, I think I'm just excited to, you know, kind of be able to share this short video with folks that are on my email list. So I'm going to be sending it out. And I hope you get, you know, a great group. And it sounds like such a nurturing way to sort of, um, you know, prepare for the upcoming school year. But any last words before we wrap up for today?
Yeah, well, yeah, thank you again, April. And I like the word nurturing, because it's a stressful time,
Yeah,
on
just one or
planet
two things happening.
Earth. There's a little too much going on, and so yeah, I run a forest school, a weekly forest school, and which is Thursdays, and I just love being out there with the kids. It's just this rhythm of joy and learning and connecting. And if we could live in a more joyful, nature connected, and resilient way, I think in service to others and this planet, I those are my closing words. It's just
Beautiful. Yeah,
it's we need this,
yeah.
and I hope I hope you come.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah,
And
join us, of
like
course.
you said, the nature is our teacher. And so, you know, carving out time to get reconnected to that, I think is really powerful. And thanks so much for chatting with me today.
Yeah, thank you, April.
You're welcome.